Hey, welcome to a foreigner in the Philippines. Well, we're so isolated up here, it's okay for me, even at my age, to take a walk because I'm unlikely in the next hour to meet a single person. We're way up in the mountains. So this is the start of my walk. It's, let me say, about 4:30 in the afternoon, so it's cooling down a little. Beth, did you call?
Sorry?
Did you call me?
No.
Okay. Come on, Pogie. Pogie's gonna come with me. And if he comes, all the other dogs will come too. Or most of them. Well, even Basher. And Basher with her wonky foot. Look. Basher, you're very loyal. Look at that. One, two, three, four. And probably Red will find a way. Red! If Pogie's here, Red will usually be here. They're like brothers. This goes down from the house and it goes down a very steep hill, which used to be very narrow, about as narrow as this path is here. So narrow, and with the sides so high, we call it the tunnel, and we still call it the tunnel. Well, Beth and I do. And this is our... where would that... oh, a coconut. And this is our bridge. Our bridge. The path used to go down so steep that it reached those rocks. And we built that up. Then it acted as a ford, which was no good. We needed a bridge, so we built on top of the ford, and we built this bridge. And actually, it's only a little tin pot bridge, but it will take, and has taken, a 3 or 4 ton truck loaded. So that's what we're looking at. Then we have our much needed stretch of concrete that took us up this slope, which was hell when it was wet. And you can see how it happens here too. Okay, come on. This is not your house. Go on. Come on, baby. It's okay. Hey. Come on. Hey. These dogs are bullies. They'll always beat up on the younger one, on the smaller. Here's the rice fields that go alongside our road. And we're in much need of a lot of work to be done here. But like most families, we have our list of priorities, and right now somehow we're managing, and we're into the dry season, so this will not change. And even with a good downpour, we probably would still be okay with this. And there's the dogs. See, so there's some planting there that Julio has done. Very easy for hilltop farmers to negotiate a deal to farm land that is not theirs. And I think that this land here, this particular part belongs to Beth's uncle, and he is the father-in-law of the house there, that household. He's the father-in-law of Julio, who's obviously married to his daughter. And there's our 6 coconuts, and the top there you can see Rado's house, the very top there looking back. On the right, that roof on the right is Lena's house, and then coming back you can't actually see our house until, unless you zoomed, and you might see a trace of red. But everything else that's in the front there is Jessica and James. So, as you can see, the sun is low, so we have maybe an hour, and it will not get any less solitary a walk than this. Now we're on our hill. We are under quarantine, and we're under 24-hour quarantine for over 65 and under 18 in an effort to contain the virus. I say in an effort to contain it because there is no way that you can say fully that you've contained it, any more than when the dogs play chicken when we are driving up that steep double strip of concrete that I just walked down, any more than they can say that they'll come out with four legs that work. We do our best, and then the rest is up to a power that's greater than ours. Okay, what you got? This is Yoda. Yoda played it too close to the wheel of the truck when we were going down after dark once, and he was on the road down and he didn't get out of the way, and so we clipped him. He ended up with a broken jaw and one eye out on his cheek. Well, we rushed him. He was much older, much younger then, and we took him to the vet, me thinking that we would put him down because he looked in a sorry state. You can imagine his eyeball, not to get gross, but his eyeball was out on his cheek, and his broken jaw, one way going east and the other going west. So we thought, thinking like a foreigner, can you please put this baby down to put him out of his misery? No, we don't do that, said the vet. We love animals and we don't euthanize them. So, on her guess, she said that Yoda had a 75% chance of surviving. I didn't think she was correct, but turned out she was, and we're quite happy for that. Yoda's a happy little dog, and to be honest, you don't really notice that his jaw is a little bit wonky, and he eats very well. In fact, was eating the next day. Such is the survival potential of a mutt. And there's Basha. Basha, here. Basha's left back leg is wasn't exactly shattered, but I think safe to assume that there was a break, which we never knew about, because Basha just took to sleeping a lot on the steps. And whenever we passed, she was friendly, and we thought that she had perhaps caught some disease, which is so easy. Could be bitten by a snake. Lots of different things that they can catch. And with the dogs here, I always say they're not pets. Of course, I love our Pogie and Red are my dogs, and I love them very much. But even they, if they got into some serious trouble, unless they were comatose, unless they were so sick that they couldn't battle me, and I was able to put them into the back of the truck, unless I could do that, then they would be down to their own resources. Look at this tail, huh? What about this tail? Look at that bushy tail. So there are things to be happy with and other things to be, well, to give yourself up to. I guess all of us right now are giving ourselves up to whatever is being presented to us in various forms on the various media. Every day I get messages which tell me more and more and more and more and more and more and even more and more information on coronavirus. So some say that you can cure the coronavirus with a hairdryer, because the coronavirus cannot survive in extreme temperatures, which certainly a directed hairdryer going back into your nasal system, under control of course, otherwise you would never be able to do it. But if you train the hot air to go back in and you're breathing that and it's going down into the lungs, that apparently is enough to get you out of trouble. The other one I read was carving up pieces of lemon, boiling it and drinking the juice. Well, of course, how can you go wrong by drinking lemon juice? Some of those other cures were, well, a little bit strange, a little bit quirky. One man says if you clap your hands, I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at this, I know that stranger things have happened. Clap your hands together 9 times and then into the crook of your elbow you clap 9 times again, and then well, I didn't continue with that. But I gave up on Basha. I gave up on Basha, and Basha learned how to survive. she does very well on 3 legs, 3.5 legs, so shall we say. There, look. When she wants to pick up speed, she picks one of those, that little injured leg up at the back, now a deformed leg, and she does pretty good. The thing with all of these dogs is that you can't chain them up. They don't lead that kind of a life. And like I didn't tell any of them that they had to come with me. Now, the way it's turned out, it's been Basher and Pogie who stayed with me. Usually it's Basher and Red, but Red must have been off doing something on the other side of the hill. I know, isn't that funny? I made a claim right at the beginning that if I came out I wouldn't meet one I wouldn't meet one other person, and here we are. Here we have, we've got a people jam. Meeting 4 people, but of course I can have social distancing. This is one of our neighbours. ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está? I have no idea what she said. And I'll slow down because apparently 2 of the others are going in the same direction as we are. Now the sun's very bright. It's a beautiful sky. Look at that. Look at those very wispy clouds. And then, as you can see, the sun is getting ready to set. Now we've been told by, I think it was Rado, has brought back the message that there are checkpoints, making sure that people who are supposed to be, which is pretty well everybody, people are supposed to be in their homes and not coming out. Now the way that works is that the government are supposed to be bringing rations to every house, and that one person in that house will be issued a certificate showing that they are the person who is legally allowed to leave the house for important, urgent reasons. Of course, if anybody has to go to hospital, that's an obvious yes. And here we are, what these guys are supposed to be doing now. This is what I mean. Is you can legislate and you can order and you can do the rules and you can do what you like, unless you have a police force that's bigger than the population. How can you enforce the rules? You can try, but those 3 boys were hardly practicing social distancing, were they? They looked like they were welded together, 3 on a bike. What we found today was, in spite of the way that I've tried to educate the 2 girls in particular, see, just breaking off for a minute, you can see that my shadow is lengthening as the sun sinks lower. But to get back to trying to educate the two girls, Talik and Bibi. I showed them something that was sent to me, shared from, I think, the Washington Post. And they showed one of those, remember the bouncing balls? Well, you probably wouldn't. You have to be very old to remember the first game that came was the table tennis, and a ball bonged from one side of the, like this, of the screen, and you played a game like that. And what they did was they took that idea and they filled the screen with black balls, if you'll pardon the expression, and the red balls were the virus, or the infected person. So the black were the people who were not yet infected, and into that full screen of moving balls they introduced one red ball, and that red ball bounced about, and every time it struck another unaffected person, it caused them to turn red. And it was terrifying to see how quickly every one of those other uninfected people became infected. And I showed that to the girls and I said, this is what it means. And I explained it to them like I've just described to you. And they nodded and said yes. I said, now you understand. If you touch one other person and they are infected by the virus, then you can become infected. Yes, we understand. Nodding the head, the dancing eyebrows. And then today we found out from Nanai, who told us that there was no service at the Foursquare Church that is on the other path that we're going to see very soon. Nanai learned this from Bibi. And how would you know that, Bibi? And then it turns out that Bibi and Lorraine have walked down to Tulang against the curfew. They walked to Tulang. And why would you do that? And Bibi, in her evidently dark sense of humour, said, we did it to find if there's anybody there with coronavirus so that we could infect everybody. Ha 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 ha. So you see, we all do our best, but there are so many variables. And then I see something else that says when you pump gas, well, evidently it's obvious, isn't it, that the gas pump, the gun has been handled by so many people, and who knows who has what. Now that's the road that Bibi took, and that's a narrow road. Well, why don't we take that road instead today for a change? Now, just to show you that house there, that house is lived in now by a family who used to live in a house over there, but I doubt that you can see that. Maybe it's not even there anymore, but they used to live over there, and we'll continue to look for it. We never We never went and looked at that house, but we did help these people here to finish that house there so that they could move in. But they moved into that, they were in that house, a family of I think 5. They were in that house, and for one reason and another wanted or needed to move to that house there, which is actually a much nicer location because it's on top of the hill. And now you can see there the far hills over and past the fire, and those fires, I can only think that they either are started, Beth always says that they're started by someone, by kids who can create a big effect just by striking a match and dropping it into this grass, which is so dry and crackles when it burns and lets off incredible heat. So are we able to see their house yet? No, it's so much more grown than it used to be. So I think it was in there somewhere. But look at that, how beautiful that is there. There's a creek down there, evidently. And then the smoke on the horizon. And all the hills way, way, way over there under the clouds. That's the thing about being up in the mountains, is that we're high up. So the clouds actually drop below the horizon. And Porgy has disappeared. And when we first came here, we always walked this path. We walked the other path that I've taken you on before when we went to church, and that's about 5 kilometers to church, I think. And we didn't take this one because the church is, this goes down more towards Tulang, and the church is in, our church is in Burgos. And we used to do this when we finally saved enough for a down payment. We bought a motorcycle and we used to come down here on a motorcycle, which was pretty well the first time in too many years that I had ridden a motorcycle. And I remember the first day that I came back, it's a very narrow path, it's a little bit wider even now it seems, but I dropped the bike 3 times. You can add a 0 to that for the number of times I dropped it after that, but it goes up here and it doesn't take much to stop the bike. It's what we did was we bought a dirt bike, and the dirt bike goes right along on the top of this. And this is a new, wow, this is much more worn in than it was when I was riding it. But you can see actually you could put the wheels, you could put the wheel into that and then put your feet down on either side, and you could do it that way. Or you could go onto the top side here and do it differently. Now this now is all overgrown, but actually this used to be, underneath that is the road that we used to take, which was all about rocks, climbing over this rock and that rock on a dirt bike. And when it was wet, it was pretty scary. So when we started driving this path, this was first walked by someone, and then one of these skilled riders, which Filipinos are skilled by association with their parents. Their father as soon as they were able to